What's going on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all platforms? This is a special episode of Giants Conversations. Quick video talking about what the Giants did in the NFL draft. 2 first-round picks, Jackson Dart, they traded up for, and Abdul Carter at 3. We're going to talk about it. Let's get into it. Welcome to Giants Convo. All right, this is Giants Convo, man.
Let's get it.
All right, our New York Giants took an edge rusher and a future franchise quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft. So they got 2 players in the first round, which means we won't pick again until 65 tonight. So it'll be 40 picks until our next pick. And they did not take Shedeur Sanders, which the panel here, we wanted them to take Shedeur Sanders. I believe that he was the quarterback that could come here and fit in the NFC East. But they went and grabbed Jackson Dart. So we're going to talk about our 2 first-round picks. We're going to show a little film and talk about what possibly did they see in these first 2 picks. Now, me personally, I know what they saw in Abdul Carter, and I'm not mad at that pick. I'm just mad at how it went down about the pick. But Abdul Carter, I do believe, fellas, that he can come in and produce as an edge rusher and an off-ball linebacker when you bring him into this franchise. Now, the thing that worries me about Abdul Carter is that foot. I'm praying that it's not a stress fracture in that foot and he's not hiding it and he goes out there and plays and he makes it worse. Just come out and say you have a stress fracture and let's just get that part over. Get it over with. Let it heal. Let him come in and dominate when he's fully healed. Don't hide it. Don't try to, throw him out there because you made that pick at number 3. You have to put him out there on the field. No, let's make sure his medical's clear and let's get him out there on the field. I do believe he can be a great pass rusher for this team. And it seems like they want to pair him with Burns and Thibodeau. They picked up Thibodeau's 5th-year option. There were trade rumors about that, which were actual just rumors, which I knew. Thing about Joe Shane, even though he's slick and slimy, he doesn't, portray what he wants to do with players or anything. He's always pretty much the opposite of what's been reported, to be honest with you. So we are going to talk about our first 2 picks, and we're going to talk about Abdul Carter first. He went number 3, so let's give him his respect, even though the pick that's talked about the most is the number pick at 25. But, Coach, I want you to iterate some stuff about Mr. Abdul Carter, man. And then we're going to look at some stuff on Abdul Carter and see exactly what he brings to this team.
Well, Abdul Carter is an athletic edge off-ball linebacker. Now, he has great quickness and speed off of the edge, a good first step, and bend, as they say. He bends underneath the offensive tackles, because they're usually a lot taller than the edge rushers. So he can dip underneath them and get around them to get after the quarterback. Now, he has great closing speed from the backside. That's the one thing that I watched on him, playing in the Big Ten for Penn State. As an off-ball linebacker, he can get sideline to sideline. He can scrape and flow. And what do I mean by that is basically follow the play and then attack the ball carrier in the run game as an off-ball linebacker, as long as the front side is pushing him back to him if he's flowing. So you can do a lot of different things in terms schematically. And I do think they're going to try and do what Dallas does with Micah Parsons. They're going to try and do the same thing with him. As they say, it's a copycat league. and you can create a lot of problems. And then when you have Burns and Thibodeau, who are you going to focus on as a blocking in your blocking scheme? And then at Dexter Lawrence, it just creates a different dynamic in terms of the pass game. So now fundamentally, as long as they stop the run, they take away the run, it'll open up the pass rushing abilities for Abdul Carter and even Tibbs and Burns and Dexter Lawrence. So
Okay. NYG, what you think of the pick? Personal feelings aside of what happened, just we gonna talk about just the players. What do you think he brings to the team as far as a player?
Well, I was on record saying that if you're not going to take a quarterback, the best thing you could do is become a quarterback hunter. And the Giants have become quarterback hunters. And Abdul Carter, along with Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, they're going to lead that charge. Now, with Carter is you see explosiveness. Basically, like people say some of these offensive players are explosive. That's the defensive version of an explosive player, an athlete out there, a talent, as they say. So again, he's going to make plays. He's going to make splash plays. Let's hope he stays healthy. And I think Abdul Carter, the player, is going to be great. I have nothing against Abdul Carter, the player. The pick itself and how it went down and the schematics of it is another topic. But Abdul Carter, I think he's going to be great in this defense. I'm glad to see they did pick up Kayvon Thibodeau's fifth-year option. I didn't want him to have to worry about that as something going on to the field this year. He can play free, knowing he's going to be a New York Giant for the next 2 years. So that's a good thing that they did. This is not really the part that upsets me with this draft. It's really not Carter. Since how it took place, I can't be mad at this pick anymore. You know what I'm saying? Now, some of the stuff he did in the media I didn't like, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I think he's gonna do well here, and the Giants got a pass rush. There should be no reason at all this team shouldn't have, shouldn't be top of the league or near the top of the league in sacks and pressures this year.
That's a fact. But we're gonna see a little bit what Carter does here. We'll go through a little bit of his film.
The free rush.
Just go a little bit of what he does. As you can see here, that burst off the edge, coach, is pretty vicious.
Explosive.
I ain't gonna lie to you. Gets underneath, got very good dip. Gets after the quarterback. Hunting season. I think the Giants got him one here as long as he stays healthy. Like that right there, that's elite. Not too many people do that immediately. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he's gonna chase around some people. He's gonna get to some.
That's a problem.
Look how fast he gets off.
Explosive. That's what I'm saying. That's the word I come up with, bro. When I watch his tape, bro, explosive. Look,
he got off that line of scrimmage, and there's nothing that player could do about it.
Now on that play right there, if you take it back just a little bit, when you force an offensive lineman to be parallel and facing the sideline, he's beat.
Yeah, he's beat.
He's beat. And he knows that, and he's literally just using one arm to smack the offensive lineman away. And he's not exerting a lot of strength. He's just using his speed. That's all he's doing. He's in some regards, he's making the game easy. He's making it very simple. I'm just going to beat you with speed right now. And now he gets into the head of the offensive lineman, who now starts sometimes kicking back a little bit too quickly, too fast, which now will open up the inside where
moves,
he can develop the counter, the spin move, little things like that. where he can expand his game, because but it's going to be based off of his quickness right there. That right there.
That's what you can't teach. That's what you can't teach. That right there is why he's the 3rd overall pick. I ain't gonna front. You can't teach that, bro.
No.
What did I just talk about with the offensive lineman? You could tell that offensive lineman was worrying about the outside.
Yep.
He beat him right to the inside.
Mhm.
He just did a dip
Beat the
inside
chip
rip.
on the running back because he went to the inside because the running back was set there to chip.
Exactly.
So yeah, I understand why they got Carter, and I think they got him one as long as he stays healthy, man.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as he stays healthy. I mean, that explosion is just ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't teach that, bro.
I mean, we haven't had explosion like that since OC.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they got him one.
That's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a problem for teams, and I expect the Giants, man, to really get after some of these quarterbacks that don't move very well in the pocket. I mean, they're gonna light them up.
Here's the other thing. And I always talk to my defensive lineman about this. During the course of a game and a season, how many penalties, whether it's holding or false starts, do you cause from an offensive lineman?
That's a fact.
That's you're in their head. You are in their head, and that's where you should say, now I'm going to have some fun.
That turns some 3rd and 4s into 3rd and 9s, or some 1st and 10s, 1st and 20s.
Exactly. You get those holding penalties, because that's what's going to happen during the course of the play. An offensive lineman will eventually start trying to grab because he can't get to him.
And think about this though, y'all. You got to double this guy. I mean, I'm looking at this film, bro. Nobody's gonna be able to block this dude one-on-one. You're gonna have to double him. Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, you can't double all of them.
Exactly.
That's just gonna be a problem. Burns one-on-one, he's nasty.
Here's the thing, but now you can also force the offense to go max protect sometimes. Now, remember when other coaching staffs were here, how many times we would only send out 2 receivers and try to go max protect because of blocking. Well, now this is to our advantage. This is to our advantage, which now we can create the problems offensively, causing them to have penalties, forcing them to adjust to what we are doing. So now the first thing it does start with is stopping the run.
And that's what I'm getting to. That's what I'm getting to right now. Now here's a play where he actually did pretty well against the run. Got off that tackle or pulling guard and gets into the backfield. Do you think he can hold up against the run games of the Commanders and the Eagles and maybe even the Cowboys if they get themselves a running back again this year? They did sign Williams from the Broncos, which is better than what they had last year, even though Rico Dowdle did a pretty good job.
They just drafted a guard, so they're going to try to get back to running the football. Got a big, nasty guard. So
as far as Carter, it depends on where you're trying to use him in the run game. If you want him to be that edge to set the edge and to consistently take on pulling guards, then I still have my questions about that. If you're talking about it as an off-ball linebacker and letting the front line eat up the blocks so he can just scrape and fill, I think he can do that in the run game. Now, see, what he's doing there is he's using quickness. And in the NFL, they're going to adjust to that. They are going to adjust to that. A tackle kicking out, and now he's dipping inside. He's setting them up outside to jump to the inside. Where, you know what? Sometimes the tackle is going to come at him. Sometimes you're going to have a tight end over there. Or they're going to down block and bring a backside guard pulling in some type of a power scheme to take him. See, right there, what did they do?
And that was a tight end. That wasn't a guard. Exactly. So I made him, made it a little bit easy for him. But that's probably going to be a big monster from the Eagles coming towards him. And
Exactly.
is he willing to take that punishment like he did there? Because that's what you have to do, you know. And they got him one, man. Get him coached up and get him trained up, and he's gonna be good, man. I know he's gonna be good as long as he stays healthy. So, me personally, I'm happy with the pick of Abdul Carter at 3 because, like NYG said, the way it turned out, they were able to trade back up into the first round and get the guy that we wanted. And Shedeur Sanders, you didn't have to take him at 3. For some reason, he fell, and we're going to talk about that on another show. But he fell, and they traded up, and they took Jackson Dart. Broke our hearts again and took Jackson Dart. Now, there's been reports out there that people were concerned about Jackson Dart's ability to process because he ran an RPO gimmicky system out there with Lane Kiffin, and that has been proven time and time again when Lane Kiffin quarterbacks. Matt Corral comes to my mind immediately.
Sam Darnold for me.
They say he plays a little wild. He could be turnover prone. And the same thing about arm strength they said about Jackson Dart. They said about Shedeur Sanders. Not a great arm. And the thing that kills me the most is a lot of people feared that he would not play well in bad weather games, in bad weather territory.
Well, damn.
We're in New York, people.
Yeah. We don't play in a dome either.
Also, there's reports that when he gets pressure, he clams up and he makes a lot of mistakes. Now, there are some things that they said he's good. Even though they said he doesn't have an elite arm, he has a very good arm. But guess what also they said bad about him? His deep ball accuracy. Even though he can throw the deep ball, his deep ball accuracy was trash. Sounds like a person can't do anticipated throws very well, clams up in the pocket, doesn't throw the deep ball well. Sounds like somebody else.
Can't quite put my finger on who you're talking about, but I think he used to play for this team.
Yeah. He used to play for Duke too. And then when you look at his stats against the SEC, yeah, he tore up Arkansas, but that was about it. Most of his stats came on people like Furman and Western Kentucky and all them people.
Furman.
But it is saying that they went on the podium and said, yeah, we're going to have to see if he can handle the New York market. That's crazy.
Not the New York market.
This is a guy you traded up for. That should have been the first thing you should have been like a guarantee he can play over here. He can handle this New York market.
Thought he aced the interviews.
Yeah, so Coach, I know you have a little bit of more information about this, so let the people know the information that you got from this.
Well, I heard reports today that Joe Shane, the management staff, they did want Shedeur Sanders. And they did all their research. You know, we all know that going to the games and everything that they've been doing since August. Now, Brian Dable, he couldn't be there because, you know what, he's coaching. He has to worry about the game and what's going on at the moment. Now, once the season was over with, he got into it, and it turns out he did not want Shedeur Sanders. He wanted Jackson Dart. So these are the reports that I'm getting right now and that I heard, and these are coming from notable people that have said it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So Brian Dable did not want Shedeur Sanders. He wanted Jackson Dart. And maybe he feels that Jackson Dart fits his system better than Shedeur Sanders. But For me, this is just basically saying, okay, well, you better make it work. You better do well, because if not, right now for me, it's really how many wins. Is it a minimum of 6 wins before you consider making a change? How is this team looking? Also during that process, if they're in the games, all the games, and you know what, you lose at the last minute of a couple of the games, okay, I can start to say, okay, Brian Dable, I see where you're going. But right now, I've been a big proponent of it's still Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback. And I understand 32 teams passed them, and we're going to talk about that later. But if you're a true coach and you have your offensive system, you should be able to put this kid in there and do things with him. The only thing you can probably debate in terms of some of the quarterbacks, he's not a dynamic runner, but not many of them are. But he can make all the throws. He can layer it. He has great accuracy, anticipation. But, and the things that I've seen with Jackson Dart, I've seen some good things, but I've seen some bad things that leave me concerned. So I'm going to leave it right there.
So, based on that new info, NYG, get your point across real quick. Then I'm going to do mine. Then we're going to get into a little bit of film of Jackson Dart before we get out of here. How do you feel about based on that information?
Well, I mean, it makes some type of sense, being as that Brian Dable said Jackson Dart reminded him of Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm. That was something.
So,
yep. Mm-hmm.
I can believe what Coach is saying up to 100 degree, and I do know Joe Shane and Brandon Brown wanted Shedeur Sanders. That is a fact. We reported that. So, it's all coming together. There's obviously a rift and a disconnect between Shane and Dable. I don't know how Mara played into this. I don't know if it was siding with Dable or it was one of those things where he over stepped in and said, hey, you two can't make a decision. I'm gonna make the decision for you, that type of thing. So I don't know how that happened, but apparently they all settled on Jackson Dart except for the general manager. And he's the one that's supposed to make the pick. Imagine that. So again, it's more of the same. As for Jackson Dart, look, man, we seen this kid in person. When I see something in person with my own eyes, I take that serious. I really evaluate at that point. That's when I get my best evaluation of a player and or a person, situation, whatever. Jackson Dart did not impress me one bit in that practice. That practice was awful for Jackson Dart. And it wasn't like he was just, missing, which he was, but he didn't look comfortable out there, and it just looked like he kind of looked like a little deer in the headlights at some point sometimes, and it looked weird when you got Tyler Shuck and Elzheimer outperforming you, on the field. And it's, I want to say this. If it works out, it does. But I mean, based on what Coach said, we don't think Brian Dable might not make it through the season at this point. If this is the case, because Shane himself is going to fire him. Look, dude, now it's going to be pressure to play Jackson Dart off the jump. Whether people want to believe it or not, I give Russ about 6 games. If the Giants ain't like 5-1, they ain't got some good record, they're gonna be call for Jackson Dart. If Russell Wilson don't look like the old Russell Wilson out there, they're gonna be calling for Jackson Dart. This is what's coming down the pipeline, and this is what I knew was going to happen. They made such a mistake.
Especially if Jackson Dart is Daboll's guy. He's going to put him in immediately because he's going to save his job.
He's got to.
He's got to. And that brings up a fear of mine with Brian Daboll. That means you're really not trying to change your scheme. You're trying to run a quarterback and you're trying to throw the ball quick to Wan'Dale Robinson again and to Slick. Yeah. You might see the same thing over again on offense, man, because they didn't bring in any offensive weapons or anything to change. And if you're planning on running Jackson Dart like he's a running quarterback, you're going to get that kid hurt, man. Because one thing, he doesn't know how to slide, just like Daniel Jones. And
who was going to do that? Take Milroe.
Yeah, like take Milroe. But we gonna get into a little bit of film to see exactly what, quote unquote, Brian Daboll said. This was his guy. This is your man's. You know, this is against Furman. He looked very good against Furman too.
Furman.
Yeah. I mean, clean pocket. I will say this: he can layer some throws. I'll give him that. We saw that last night after the draft. He can layer some throws. He can get that ball up and over a linebacker quick. He can. And I guess they feel that he has that Josh Allen type speed, I guess. I think Josh Allen's a bit faster than what he is and way stronger. You're not going to get that. So if he's Josh Allen like the Daboll, we're going to see. But he can layer some throws. Now, when he misses high. He misses very high when he misses, and his anticipatory throws, he's gonna have to work on that a whole lot. I'm gonna get his kid his fair shake. I know this is not the pick that should have happened, especially if you trade up for him. But I am gonna give him his fair shake, but I'm gonna give him his fair share of criticism because that's what you guys do. You know what I'm saying? Will he be able to make the easy throws to Malik Neighbors and them? Yeah. Any quarterback can do that. It's the anticipatory throws. Is he going to run into the same situation that, quote unquote, he was in with Daniel Jones? You got to be able to make those throws and with anticipation in the NFL. They're not going to be open like this every game in the NFL, and that's what people got on Daniel Jones about. Throw him open.
Put that on the screen real quick.
You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna see with Mr. Jackson Dart. He's not totally trash, but I know Shedeur Sanders is better. I know it. And that does make a lot of sense why Daboll wouldn't want Shedeur Sanders, because you can't run Shedeur Sanders like that. You can't run him like that. This kid, you can try to manufacture a bunch of runs with him. You're gonna get him hurt, because he's not as fast as Daniel Jones or Josh Allen, and damn sure not as near as strong as those two guys. So if you're going to keep running him into the Eagles, running him into the Cowboys, running him into the Commanders, then you continue to have to play teams like the Ravens and all that. Like, you're going to get this kid hurt, man. Y'all better make sure that, you know, y'all offensive line is up to par, man. You know what I'm saying? This is against a team like Middle Tennessee. Look how wide open these people are.
You got to share, Brody. There we go.
Like, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, man. I mean, he can make the easy throws, you know, but any quarterback should be able to make those type of throws. You know what I'm saying? Wide open, you know. I want to see hanging in the pocket, tough, you know, over the middle of the field throws. You know what I'm saying? So we got to understand that with Jackson Dart, you're talking about somebody that's a toolsy quarterback. So he needs a lot of refinement in his game, you know, and basically it's the part of his game that we've been lacking here in New York. The anticipatory throws, like you said, you know, the ability to you know, make plays off script. You know, like, I guess he has a little bit of that, but he's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes.
No, he's not those
So
guys.
but that's the expectation here with the New York Giants, right? We gotta have an elite quarterback. Because Shedeur Sanders wasn't good enough. He's not elite. He's average. So this guy must be elite, or he must have the tools to be elite. So let's see if Brian Daboll can make him elite.
Yeah, like, the kid can play. I'll give him that, but I just don't see it, man. I don't see it, and I don't see how this guy is worlds above.
Can he play in the NFL? That's the key.
Yeah, we'll see. But he does. He can layer the ball when you ask him to layer the ball over that linebacker. He can. He's done that repeatedly. It's just, can he run that pro-style offense? Can he run the offense when the pressure's getting to him? And hopefully he doesn't do what he did against Florida and throw those 3 picks in 1 minute. You know what I'm saying? Those plays right there, that's what reminds people of the Josh Allen and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see what he does, man, with the New York
Daniel
Giants.
Jones do stuff like that? I don't know.
All the time. He ran through Grady Jarrett. He had to do it all the time. He had no choice. You know, that was the best part of his game, but we'll see, man. I hope this kid doesn't turn out to be a dud, man, because if he turns out to be a dud, you're going to be looking for Arch Manning next. And then you traded assets to get him, so he's here. This kid's here.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part about it is the disconnect between the GM and the head coach. And I'll give Joe Shane this. I do believe a GM is supposed to get the players that his head coach wants. So he did his job. He got the quarterback that Brian Daboll wanted, if those reports are true. And I can see that. I can see him saying no to Shedeur Sanders because he's not the type of quarterback that Brian Daboll likes to work with. He does like those athletic quarterbacks that can make off-script plays, and he can do quarterback runs all day if he wanted to. I don't even think Jackson Dart is that. If you wanted to do that, you should have just went with Milroe and used your quarterback guru ability to get Milroe's passing ability up. Because I've seen Milroe make the same type throws. You know, and definitely when he was on this game, he was throwing some dots. And Milroe is one hell of a runner. I promise you that dude is a hell of a runner.
Yeah. If he want to run that type of offense, Milroe, yeah, run it. And guess what? He fits your division because you got the same type quarterbacks in that division.
And has a stronger arm.
They missed the boat so many different ways, bro. I mean, they literally, bro. Like, they really missed the boat.
He fits the mold of ownership and Brian Daboll, I guess, and I guess that's why he's the pick. And I do believe that they traded up to get in front of the Rams because the Rams were going to take Jackson Dart. That's what reports were. Sean McVay loved him because I think he fits the system over there with the Rams way better. That system over there with the Rams could have helped him out tremendously. And he gets to play in a dome. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's a dome quarterback. I do believe so. If you would have put him with the Saints or put him with the Rams over there, especially he gets to learn behind Matthew Stafford, he could definitely learn a lot from Matthew Stafford. That could have been like a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers situation for him. But I think his ceiling is like a Baker Mayfield, which Baker Mayfield goes out there and cook. I ain't gonna lie. When he got with the right quarterback coach, Baker Mayfield went out there and he was cooking. So, but he did have Mike Evans, Godwin, and all.
Ask you guys one question. I'm gonna throw it out there before anybody else. Kafka. Are they gonna let Kafka work with Jackson Dart?
If they let Kafka work with Jackson Dart, yeah. I think he can make a system for Jackson Dart. Are they willing to change that system? Because based on what Coach says, they're not changing anything. They're gonna go on. I believe that. The same stuff they did last year, And now he has his quarterback to run his system. So,
But if he's going to let Kafka call the plays, which they have talked about, you got to let Kafka run the system and build the system with Jackson Dart, because Russell Wilson's going to run it for right now. And then you eventually going to switch over to Jackson Dart is what their plan is. So why not let Kafka build and develop the system while he calling the plays for Russell Wilson? Then you can bring Jackson Dart in there. Brian Dable needs to be a coach. You see? And this is my problem and my issue with this whole thing. You still focused on getting the next Josh Allen. That's all we keep hearing. We heard that with Daniel Jones. Now we hearing it with Jackson Dart. The next Josh Allen, that's what he's looking for. There ain't no Josh Allen, Brian Dable. He's in Buffalo, dog. He's not in this draft. He's not in the next draft. He's not in the draft after that. He's not in the draft after that.
No. You're not going to see a Josh Allen for a long time. He's one of those type players you're not going to see for a long time. Like Saquon Barkley was a player that you're not going to see for a long time. You know what I'm saying? Like those type players you just don't see all the time. They come once every 10 to 15 years. You know, so it is what it is, man. But that was the New York Giants first round draft last night, man. Abdul Carter, I am very happy with, especially how it turned out. I love the pick. You know, got a little bit more to think about it. Everything happened the right way. They just made the wrong pick, in my opinion, in Jackson Dart. It should have been Shedeur Sanders. And you could have had your quarterback of the future and your top edge rusher to pair with two other good edge rushers. And I think you would have came out here with an A+++++++.
The trade up is painful though, bro. That's painful. Not having those second and third round picks.
Yeah, and it's gonna come into effect tonight when you see us make a third round pick, and we might have to get the scraps of what we could have had. But any last words before we get out of here on the Giants first round?
I have nothing left to say, sir.
So that is what it is, man. New York Giants will be on the clock at pitch 65 tonight at the NFL draft. We will be live right here on the Aboriginal Sports Network, and we're gonna call some more Giants. Well, one more Giants pick. We should have been calling two, actually three, but we're gonna be calling one tonight. So it is what it is, man. But that's been the New York Giants, man. Oh boy. We'll see you on the next one, man.